All right, on the agenda for today were wide stance squats. Wide stance squats are the single best exercise for overall leg development that I have found. This is sometimes referred to as the sumo squat because it looks like sumo. And this squat variation is going to work just about every muscle in your legs. The wide stance makes it so that it's a much less quad involved exercise. The quads are not being utilized as much as a standard squat and much less so than a Hindu squat. In exchange, you're getting a lot more hip flexor involvement. The hip flexors are being stretched a lot more and they're doing a lot more work. The same thing is true about the glutes. The glutes are doing more work on the descent and they're also doing a lot of work out of the bottom position. Essentially everything is being worked in the legs during the wide stance squat. Even the feet are being worked more so than a standard squat. The stance for this variation is wider than a regular squat stance. Personally, I like to go somewhere about 1.5 times my regular stance width to more. It really depends on what a person is comfortable with, how far they're willing to go. There are some things I would like to mention. In the wide stance, you will not be able to achieve the same depth of squat as you likely would be able to achieve in a narrow stance. This is all due to the dynamics of the wide stance. The stretch you get at the bottom will be a lot more intense. You'll be stretching a lot more muscles. And so you will likely not be achieving your desired depth, especially if this is your first time or you're new to wide stance squatting. Another thing I'd like to mention is due to the stance change, you're going to have to watch out for foot, knee, and hip position. The hips will already be open in the wide stance, but the knees should also be pointing out to align with the hips, and the same is true for the feet. I have found that if my feet are not aligned with my knees, if they're not looking in the same direction, then my knees will pop a lot, the squat is very uncomfortable, and I'll have to readjust a lot more. So, positioning is key for this movement, and squat depth might not be exactly where you want it to be at the start, but the more you work this movement, the more flexible you'll become in this movement. Today, I did 3 sets of 50 wide stance squats. I'm pretty sure I miscounted one of those sets, but I forgive myself. This is a squat variation that I have not really given its due diligence in my own routine. I have not done this exercise as much as I should. This is something I mentioned yesterday, but I really got to do a lot more of these wide stance squats. They are really the best thing you could do to build your legs overall. You are not going to be focusing on any specific muscle doing this movement, but you will absolutely be working your whole leg. It's quite taxing, and it's something that everyone should be working on. The wide stance squat is a great exercise for anyone to implement. It's super useful, super practical, and I've got to listen to my own advice and do some more of it because these felt pretty good, and I do plan on implementing more of these in the future. I'll be back with more squats tomorrow.